and he looks like he is a definite candidate for a Head and Shoulders ad. That's what he looked like. And again, Urban Meyer was standing directly in front of him, and I can't recall a pro day. And again, if any of you out there are really invested in watching these pro days more frequently, tell me if that's a common occurrence where coaches are just standing blatantly in front of prospects. I was under the impression that most of them stayed on the sidelines with the scouts. But Urban Meyer was right there. Some stuff was going down. In the meantime, with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer came under a lot of fire on Thursday and Friday for one of his staff signing decisions. So on Thursday, Urban Meyer hired former University of Ohio strength and conditioning coach Chris Doyle, and this drew immediate backlash from the league and from the what is it called? Here, I need to go in my notes here really quickly. From the Fritz Pollard Alliance. Remember that name. It'll come back into play later. So Thursday, Urban Meyer hired former University of Iowa strength and conditioning coach Chris Doyle. And Doyle earlier this year was suspended, and he reached a separation agreement from Iowa in June as a result of allegations against him made by multiple former black players of racial discrimination. Doyle had been a coach at Iowa since 1999. In fact, I believe he was the highest paid strength and conditioning coach in the nation. And there were reports that emerged early this year from multiple former players in which they accused him of racial discrimination. There was one player that said he was so dejected from playing football at University of Iowa he stopped completely, and he pointed to we just got done talking about the Texans. I apologize. He talked about Doyle's discrimination and his bullying as one of the main reasons for him being out of football. Some of the issues raised specifically were that black and white players weren't held to specific standards, or they weren't held to the same standards, rather. Black players were mistreated, they were cursed at, they were thrown racial slurs at, and Doyle and other assistants made racist remarks, and black players felt like they had to conform to specific ways of dress and behavior. That's what the article said specifically. And no more than a day later, after all of that comes into light, where people start, complaining about the hire and people start blasting the hire, that all happened on Thursday. And legitimately, as I was doing the research for this story last night, I got a notification and a new story came out that Doyle was actually resigning from his position. So it only took 24 hours for those who were against the hire, which should be everybody, based on the fact that he reached a settled agreement on these allegations of racial discrimination, which when you reach an agreement like that, to Mike Wilbon's point, who made a fantastic point on Pardon the Interruption yesterday, if you reach an agreement like that, that means there's some truth to those claims. It's not 100% true, it's not 100% false, but there is some level of truth to those claims if you reached an agreement for your release in that aspect. And as I said, so last night, Doyle brought his resignation to Urban Meyer, and this came after the Fritz Pollard Alliance, which is an organization devoted to championing diversity in the NFL. It is comprised of scouts, coaches, front office people, other personnel from the NFL, and other sports professionals as well. That's their little slogan, that's their tagline. The executive director, I can't remember his name, he absolutely blasted the NFL and this hire, and Doyle went to Meyer last night and gave him his resignation. And the thing that's mind-blowing is that Urban Meyer was defending this hire. He said, I've known Doyle for 20 years, I have vetted this hire, we called, we talked, we had difficult conversations, and I was confident that we were going to be able to put all of that behind him, and none of that was going to happen with this job in the NFL. I need to be careful here because I'm actually pretty worked up about this. I have said from the very beginning, it was literally one of the first video and first topics I've ever made on this show. One of the first things that I ever said on the show was that I was not sold on the Urban Meyer hiring, and this is the exact freaking reason why I was not so sold on the hiring. Is he a good football coach? Yes. But wherever he's gone in his football career, whether that's University of Florida, whether that's University of Utah, whether that's University of Ohio State, wherever he has gone in his football career, he has made questionable decisions and has weaseled himself out of there. Whether that's due to health reasons, whether that's just plain retirement. Am I doubting that he actually has health problems? No. But is he using that as a scapegoat? I would bet yes. So wherever he has gone, he's had issues. He's weaseled himself out of bad situations. And as good as a football coach as he is, I think I used the phrasing, he is the ultimate opportunist. I said the only reason that he's taking this job in Jacksonville to begin with is the fact that Jacksonville has a generational quarterback coming in with the draft, and they have the most cap space in the league, and Urban Meyer has complete control of that franchise. Any coach would come out of retirement for that. And, the statement that Urban Meyer released saying that he vetted Doyle and he has vetted pretty much every member of his staff and that they did a good job of it. Oh, it's laughable. I mean, Meyer is horrible at character judgment. At University of Florida, he had 31 players in his tenure arrested. 31 players. Now, a lot of those charges were ultimately dropped, and they ranged from something like possession of drugs to firearms to some domestic abuse, all of that stuff. 31 different players in his tenure at Florida were arrested. And trust me, look, I'm wearing a Florida State shirt right now. I understand. Like, I'm no stranger to having players be arrested or have allegations. Dalvin Cook had a fight in a gas station in Tallahassee. Jameis Winston stole crab legs from Publix. Like, I'm no stranger to this. 31 is an insane amount of players to have arrested in the 5 years, like the 10 years that he had at University of Florida. And not only that, he also vetted Zach Smith for not only his Florida coaching staff, but also his Ohio State coaching staff with the knowledge that there were allegations against him for domestic abuse. And it is really only because of the fact that Urban Meyer is such a damn good football coach that a lot of the dirt in the back of his pickup truck is overlooked. Urban Meyer vetting, and I know that you can't see this for those of you who are listening to the podcast on Spotify or Google Podcasts. I know you can't see me, but when I'm saying the word vet, I have the most gigantic quotations that I could possibly make with my fingers. He vetted these people, and to say that he thinks he did a pretty good job is completely tone deaf of what the NFL should be allowing or is about. I mean, he's walking into a room of men, not college kids. He's walking into a room of men in which 70 to 80% of those men are going to be black and could have been defended or offended by the things that Chris Doyle did and said when he was at University of Iowa. It lacks logic, it's very tone deaf, and it's very Urban Meyer. Meyer is a horrible judge of character development, and I'm sure that there's somebody out there who is going to label me as an Urban Meyer hater. This is not the first time that I have been cold on Urban Meyer on the show. It's literally been since day one that I did not feel good about this hire, and this is exactly why. You can go ahead and label me what you want, but you can't avoid the fact that this is classic Urban Meyer, in which his resume as a football coach is going to get him a lot of free passes in situations and for decisions that he makes that are just not good decisions. And, if you are the NFL, this is what you should have expected when you welcomed him among the ranks of NFL coaches. This is what you should have expected if you're the NFL. This is what you should have expected if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is what you should have expected. This is the type of guy that you're hiring. And again, I know that he's a fantastic football coach. I know that he's a great football mind. But as we continually see in the NFL, and especially in college football, it's becoming more and more apparent that it doesn't matter how good at football you are. If you are a weaselly person, if you do bad things, that doesn't have as long of a leash anymore. That old boy mentality that a lot of analysts have pointed to. And all of this really is the exact reason as to why I was so hesitant of him getting a job out of retirement with no NFL experience, making the jump from college to the NFL. And I'm not going to say that this is a foreboding or this is foreshadowing for how Meyer's tenure with the Jaguars is going to go. But I will say I can reasonably see a world in which Urban Meyer continues to be very ignorant, continues to be very egotistical in his decision making and his hiring process. I mean, and sure, you can look at me and say, well, that you're just naming names. You're upset at Urban Meyer. I'm saying, look, he vetted and approved. And it's not like this situation with Doyle happened like a couple years ago. This discrimination stuff happened in June. That's when June of last year. That's when all of this happened. It hasn't even been a year since all those allegations went down, and he vetted this guy that he's known for 20 years to be a coach in the NFL. Come on. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. Back to the point. I'm not sure that this is going to be vindicative of the way that Urban Meyer's career is going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I can reasonably see a world in which 3 years from now, not only has Urban Meyer tarnished Trevor Lawrence, but he has basically left the Jaguars in the exact same place that they are right now. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say. Now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.